Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to another episode of In the Comments. Unfortunately, these days with social media and everyone with a keyboard has an opinion, you find people, they say things that normally they wouldn't say if you were together or in front of each other. They wouldn't say it. And I hate to try to be this tough guy. That's not who I am. But at the same time, like, we have a low tolerance for disrespect. It's just something that I guess over time, we took for granted. So before I read these comments, I want to illustrate some examples, because I think that sometimes a lot of the information is in our heads, and because it's in our heads, you can't really fully understand where we're coming from. Well, not just me, any person. Like, a person have an opinion, but he has a lot of background information that basically you don't know about that helped him form that point of view. So I want to give an example. A lot of people are familiar with the people, we call them the Russians, but they're not really Russians. They're from Chechnya, from Uzbekistan, from Kazakhstan, these brothers. And one of the things I noticed about them is that they're very respectful brothers. And they have a low tolerance for disrespect. So one of the main benefits, I would say, from Kazakhstan is the warrior spirit that they have and the respect level that they have. Everybody knows something. If you go there and you want to deal with them, you should know all of them know something. And then none of them scared of you. So it don't matter how big you are, how tough you think you are, none of them scared. The smallest want to go head to head with you. So this level of respect, this is where I'm getting at. I would doubt it very seriously that you'll find one of those guys on YouTube making comments and talking, disrespectful. You won't find it, because their culture is one of respect. Because if you disrespect, you can expect to be dealt with in a certain type of way. Now, let's get into some comments that kind of triggered me a little bit. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not easily triggered, because I can kind of see where you're coming from, and I say, is this worth it? Is it worth discussing? Is it worth opening this subject? It's not. So let's just keep it moving. So here, let's talk about these comments that triggered. So there's two. The first comment is, there's actually three comments, but two of them are on the same topic. So let's take a look at the comments. The first comment reads, "May Allah reward the brothers for sharing their perspective and promoting Hijrah to Muslim lands. But why are they unable to utter the word Israel or Zionist state? Why do they need to say certain country? This is so sad and humiliating. It perfectly proves the point of those saying, don't go to those traitor countries. What a disgusting, disgraceful state we Muslims are in." So that's the first one. Let me read the second one. And this is actually one comment. One comment is two different people, but basically the same meaning. The second one says, "Bro, this man is scared to even say the word Israel. Lots of laugh. Is this the Ummah now?" Okay, let's talk about it. Obviously, this is taking a general sentiment and placing it upon us. It's not for us to defend ourselves in that way, but I think there's some missing information. First, let's hear the clip of what they're talking about.
There are people who say that in some countries, they advise people not to go to these countries because of the government's political positions in the world. And I'm trying not to be specific, but
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, what is your take on that? If the government supports a certain thing that's anti-Islamic or whatever, what does that have to do with us in terms of moving to that country and living in that country?
So in this clip, we're not talking about Philistine. And it is actually talking about Muslim countries that have a political agenda that we see as counter-Islamic or anti-Islamic. So we didn't name any of the countries. We just said it didn't matter really. It's just whoever you see that has this particular characteristic, that's who we're talking about. So you can fill in the blank here. But we weren't talking about Philistine. Here's another point. Nobody's scared to say Israel. So that's another point that is weird, because on this side of the world, you can find things like this. These are open public displays of hatred for what's going on in Philistine. Another thing you should consider is that we don't even say Israel. We say Philistine. Why should I say Israel? We say Philistine. So you can find that in other videos like this one. And in the bag is a book about Muhammad Ali. In the bag is a book about this, to show that, you know, we're not against y'all. Like, we good. Don't hate us because of what we're doing to other people. And of course, recently, what is that? That's what's happening in Philistine. So to be clear, I guess maybe because we don't talk about the issue, because for us, we're right next to where the conflict is happening. And for us, it's like an elephant in the room. If the elephant's in the room, we all see it. We all know it. So what's understood doesn't need to be explained. So I guess that maybe people who watch the channel don't understand the actual sentiment that exists in the Muslim world. They're not afraid to say anything. And as a matter of fact, if people try to come here with that, they'll be disappointed. Let's just say that. If people from the Jewish state want to come here, or let's say people that occupied Philistine, they want to come to these places and they want to talk like that, they'll have a big problem. And that's happened, by the way. That's not just something I'm saying, or maybe mumkin. No, it's not like that. It's happened. So what is the point I'm trying to make? Here, we're focused on Hijrah. And once you come to these lands, you see open displays of the people's sentiment towards things happening in the Muslim world. And it doesn't even make sense to even talk about it, because we know it already. We know what the situation is. And you'll find on apps like this open support for people in Gaza. You'll find people boycotting the restaurants that support the occupation. You'll find that open, no problem with that. Even in places like Malaysia, you'll find them going into the streets. You'll find them openly boycotting, and you'll see it. If you're in the Muslim world, you'll see it. You'll see a Starbucks empty, and you'll see the other coffee shop full with people. You'll see people, you say, yeah, I want a Pepsi, and they bring you some generic soda because they don't sell you Pepsi. You'll find that. That's just common. So people are actually acting upon it and doing the best that they can to support our brothers and sisters in Philistine. So just to be clear, like this idea that, oh, you can't even say the word Israel and whatever. I don't say Israel anyway. I don't even give you that respect. This is Philistine, and this is our land, Muslim land. So that's just to be clear on the point. And the issue with the politics and what governments do politically has nothing to do with the sentiment that's on the ground. You have to understand that. Here at Make Hijrah, our goal is to bring you the latest information on what's going on in the Muslim world, ensuring that you're able to make informed decisions on how and where to make Hijrah. But we can't do this without your support. If you value this cause, go to fund.makehijrah.com to support our productions. Your contribution allows us to travel throughout the Muslim world to give you a clear picture of what your options actually are. Whether it's a one-time or continuous donation, every bit helps us to continue producing content for you. Jazakallahu khairan for your support. Now back to the video. The second triggering comment is this one. It's haram to recommend people to migrate or to live where their lives could be in risk and they will never have any rights. Where one's life does not matter, where one's opinions does not matter, where oppression is the general rule, where no one respects the other, where one's belongings can be confiscated at any moment, and one's life could be put in danger unlawfully. Okay, so we responded to this comment by asking, what country are you talking about? What country is this? Now, there's two ways to look at this comment. So you can first look at it as a person making hijrah. That's one side. The other side is a local person in the country, whereas the local person could possibly face these issues. And we've seen it, that generally when you enter into politics and you become a political activist, you will face these things that this person is talking about. But that's not the context in which anything on our channel is directed towards. Our channel is directed towards people who want to make hijrah from the non-Muslim lands to the Muslim lands. So in this case, this doesn't apply. So let's talk about it for a second. The first point is that we should be careful saying something that's haram. We should be careful with that, and we should be shy with that. Because in essence, if it's not haram, what you're saying, you have made something that Allah has made permissible, impermissible. And this is very dangerous by itself. Now you have taken on the role of the one who legislates laws for the humanity by saying this is haram to do this. So that's the first point. You should be very careful in saying that. Unless you mean haram like shame, haram alaik. Haram alaik means shame on you. It doesn't mean haram, yani legislative rule. So in this case, I'm not sure what the person intended, but the person never really responded. So the first point they make is they said where their life could be at risk. And honestly, in all my time living in the Muslim world, I never felt that my life was at risk. But in my city, where I'm from, in America, I have had times where I felt that my life was at risk and my family's life was at risk. I've told a story before of where my family and I were driving home, and we stopped at the stoplight, and next to us was the gas station. And all of a sudden, shots start ringing out. I had my wife and my small children in the car. Shots start ringing out. And we said, what's going on here? Pop, 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 pop. People shooting each other in the gas station. And this happened over 20 years ago. This is not recent. This is not recent event. This had happened 20 years ago. When one of my sons went back to visit his grandmother and his aunts, somebody started shooting up the house that he was in. Shots rang out. He didn't know what to do. And they're like, get down. They had a protocol for whenever somebody's shooting in the neighborhood. So while I've never had the feeling that my life was at risk living in the Muslim world, ever, not once, there in the States, there are more than this time. That was just one example where I felt that my life was at risk. And in some places, you can get caught up just in crossfire. They didn't shoot, by the way, they didn't shoot up my son's grandmother's house to get at his grandmother or his family. They just were shooting, and that just happened to be the place. And I believe in one case, because it happened more than one time, it happened several times. But we won't get into that. We won't get into that. But this idea that where your life is at risk, I've never seen that. I've never seen it. And I've never had anybody tell me that they've seen this. Now, the only exception to this is if you start to do criminal activity. If you begin to do criminal activity, then maybe when you go to prison, even then, do you feel like your life is at risk? Probably not. But you will be dealt with harshly. There's no doubt about that. In the country, it varies from country to country. If you come here with criminal activity, you're going to feel the brunt of that force, no doubt about it. But do you feel like your life is at risk if you're a law-abiding citizen or a law-abiding visitor? No, you won't. I don't see that happening. The next point they make, it says that they will never have any rights. Never have any rights? What does that mean? Because as a visitor with a residency visa, you do have rights. What did you mean that you don't have rights? It means that now, because you're here and you're a foreigner, now they can do anything. They can steal from you. They can take your wife away. They can beat up your children. What do you mean? I'm going to give you another example of this. There was a brother and a close friend of mine, and my sheikh even, that he comes from a place where he comes from my generation where respect is very important. So he's been disrespected on many occasions where he had to physically hurt people. And this was in Egypt. And what you'll find is that when the police come, they're on his side. They're on his side. And many things have happened where a threat has been made to call the tourist police on people. And they straighten it up. Please don't call it. Please. So what rights are you talking about exactly? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't understand. Like, what do you mean by rights? Like, I don't get it. So maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I don't understand what you mean by rights. But I see that people, you're not going to, maybe in countries it varies from place to place. But if a person does something wrong to you, if they steal from you, if they harm you in any way, the law is going to come upon them just like it would come upon any other person. And in some cases, because you're a guest, they're treated more harshly than what the normal person would be or the normal situation would be. So this idea of having no rights, I haven't seen it. If you can show me some examples, show me. But don't show me an example of someone that does a criminal activity and he was taken away and he did this. Don't show me that. Another one says where one's life doesn't matter. I don't know of a place where, I haven't been to a place in the Muslim world where your life doesn't matter. So I don't know even what you mean by that. No need to even go into that. What do you mean my life doesn't matter? Where one's opinions does not matter. But let's go back. Where one's life doesn't matter. Can you explain to me why it is that I can't, as many situations as we've been in, as many people as we know, as many scenarios that exist, there's never been a case where your life didn't matter. As a matter of fact, your life matters a lot, and everybody's life matters. I'll tell you a story. I was walking down the street with one of my sons, and I told him, I said, it was a dog under the car, a stray dog. I said, kick that dog. And he looked at me and he said, Abby, it's haram to do something like that. He told me that, even though I was joking. Regardless of what you think, even the life of a dog, a stray dog, and believe me, in a lot of places you'll find stray dogs, stray cats, stray animals that you wouldn't find in places in the West. Like, these dogs walk around in packs, and it's a lot of them. And they respect the life of the dog, not to say, okay, we're going to kill all these dogs. They respect the life of the dogs. That exists in Egypt. That exists in Turkey. It exists in other countries, but maybe not dogs. It might be cats. But they do things for the cats. They do things for the dogs. What do I mean by that? The cats in Oman, for example, the people will take the food and give it, the food that no one eats, and give it to the animals. And you'll find the cats lined up around the stores to eat the food. They take care of the cats. They take care of the dogs. So where is it where the human life doesn't matter? What if I can give you over 22 years of Hijra knowledge in just a few hours? Well, with the Hijra Handbook, I've attempted to do just that. This book holds the same systems I've used to stay and raise my family in the Muslim world for the past 22 years. Once you've read this, you'll be equipped with the same tools I use to sustain myself financially, develop strong expat communities, and obtain residency in over 4 Muslim countries. This knowledge has already helped many Muslims have thriving lives abroad, and inshallah, it can help you do the same. So don't wait. Visit book.makehijra.com to get your copy now. So where is it more apparent that human life doesn't matter? It can't be here. You have something called true crime. And you have many shows that talk about death and killing, and people killing for insurance money, killing to get out of a marriage, killing to do this and that. How is it possible that these countries, your life doesn't matter, but in Western countries, your life matters? How is that possible? How is it possible when you have gangs killing each other? 10, 15 murders over the weekend. The murder rates over the years, where people killing people like they're in a video game these days, and they're rapping about it. They're making songs about it. How is it that that life matters there, but doesn't matter here? How is that possible? How is it that every year you get someone that runs up into a school and murders children, and then we can say the life don't matter here, but it matters there? People angry at the job and just go and just shoot up everybody in the workplace. How is it that life matters there and doesn't matter here? What about abortion? Abortion now is used as a form of birth control. How many babies are they killing? We're not talking about when it's a clump of blood. We're talking about when the baby is actually a baby now. And they're having abortions. Who does it matter? Where does life not matter? And we can go on and on. Serial killers. Who has the most serial killers that you can name by name? Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, it's on and on. That kill people in the most horrific ways. You have people that kill people and put them into the walls, bury them in the walls. Jeffrey Dahmer used to cut people up, cook and eat people. And I know a lot about Jeffrey Dahmer because Jeffrey Dahmer happens to be from the same city I'm from, or he was in the same city that I'm from. So, and there's more. There's many more. And you want to talk about where someone's life doesn't matter, where oppression is the general rule. I don't know how you define oppression, but to say that it's the general rule is unfair. It's unfair. In the Muslim world, oppression is the general rule. How can you blanket the whole Muslim world this way? It's not true. Oppression generally comes when you want to step on somebody's toes politically. That's when you start to see oppression. You do have countries that take the wealth of the people and do things like this. You have countries like that. But generally speaking, oppression is the general rule. That's not fair. It's not fair to say. And I would have to ask, where is oppression not the general rule in some Western countries? Where you have people marginalized based upon their skin color. Where you had the institution of slavery, taking people from one country and enslaving them in another country. Oppression wasn't the general rule. What about after slavery? What about during civil rights? What about all these things where oppression? I can't drink out the same water fountain as a white person. No dogs, no niggers, no Jews on signs. You can't go into certain places. Look at the disproportionate amount of people in prison. Oppression is the general rule. So what's the general rule there? Can you tell me? Justice? Where people were being put in prison to serve the privatization of prisons, to make money off the inmates, big companies. Isn't it oppression to have a situation where you need to borrow money and then have to pay 20% interest rates? That's not oppression. What do you call it? When no one respects the other. All right, some of this stuff is not really worth talking about. What do you mean no one respects the other? I don't understand what that means exactly. Is it some disrespect going on here and there? Sure there is. But to say no one respects the other? Come on, man. Come on. How much disrespect do you find in the West? Where it goes to the point of people disrespecting the president's wife. They're saying that Michelle Obama is a man.
Who is Michelle Obama? Is she really a woman? Is she a man?
Michelle Obama might be a man.
You telling me my wife is a man and that's not disrespectful? I don't need to give smaller examples. That's just one of the examples. How disrespected are females in the West to where you become something that I use to sell things. You're a sexual object. You're constantly disrespected. And the list goes on. Like, I'm coming off the top of my head. Did I research? I didn't even research this. I'm just telling you what I see. Like, who's more disrespected than a Western woman? Where one's belongings can be confiscated at any moment. I don't know what you're talking about. So I would just respond and say, where's this place where your belongings are confiscated at any moment? At any moment, they're going to come in and just take all your furniture and take your stuff and take your dollars and all that. I don't know. I can't say that I can vouch for that one. Is it happening? I'm sure it's happening. It's happening in some places. But wouldn't that apply to the West as well?
This is a rare glimpse into an abuse of power that thousands of innocent Americans experience each year. Through a public records request, the Institute for Justice was able to acquire body and dash cam footage of an entire roadside seizure, from the initial traffic stop to the seized money being deposited at the bank.
What about that? Does that count for something? That's more likely to happen than what you're talking about here. People been in the Muslim world for years and years and years and never had their property confiscated. What are you talking about? Has it happened? I'm sure it's happened. Matter of fact, I know cases where it has happened. It's not totally untrue. But we're talking about from a Hijrah standpoint. We're talking about muhajirun. We're not talking about locals or political problems or this, that, and the other. It happens. It's not to say that, oh, these people are clear and clean and it doesn't happen ever. No, it happens. But you have to separate the two scenarios. You have a scenario that has to do with people that live, citizens, and then you have a situation where you have people coming to the country and living in the country as residents. And the last point is where one's life can be put in danger unlawfully. So again, with all due respect to the person that made this comment, be fair. Be fair, because I don't know a place where this applies, especially to people that are going to that country, because that's what the comment is talking about, people going to move to the place. Can you bring some examples of people that move to a place and all these things happen to them to make it haram for them to go? I look forward to hearing the response to this. And then again, I don't want to go back and forth because it's not worth neither of our time to go back and forth. Anybody with some aql or some brain, some thinking can look at this and say, okay, this is exaggerated. It's not real. The final point, a bonus comment, is the one that refers to music in our productions. And just to clarify, and hopefully we don't have to clarify this too many times, but we don't use music. Everything is voice sounds. And to to give some type of dramatic or some type of emotional effect for it. And but to be clear, there's no music involved. So going forward, inshallah, to conclude this, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for those who want to immigrate, make hijrah to the Muslim world. And I would say the Muslim world is vast and pretty much gives you whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for a rural style life, like a farming life, a simple life, you have that. If you're looking for you're a city person and you're looking for a good city to move to that has activities and hustle and bustle and strong internet connections and strong systems for you to live a life that you're used to, you have that as well. So the Muslim world is vast, and I encourage all of us to, instead of going to the Bahamas or going to Jamaica or going to on holiday in Europe or wherever it is, try the Muslim world. Try taking a trip over to the Muslim world. Look at what the Muslim world has to offer. It's not what they put out there. It's not what the people want you to think. They want you to think we're backwards. They want you to think that we're uncivilized. They want you to think this and that. You'll find whatever you're looking for, inshallah, in the Muslim world, and you'll be surprised. People do respect life. They do respect people's property. And I remember a brother telling us, he said, I can leave a bag. This was in Qatar, by the way. He said, I can leave a bag of money on the table and it'll be in the same place when I come the next day. Nobody will touch it. And that's not just one person. Many people say the same thing. There's places in the Muslim world where nobody will touch your property. Nobody will harm you physically. And it's not allowed for anyone to harm each other physically or disrespect you. Even disrespect in some countries is not tolerated. So the Muslim world at its core is a Muslim society that has been affected by colonialism and losing its unity in the form of an Islamic state or Islamic Khilafah. It doesn't exist anymore. But the core of it is Islamic society. And then, of course, you'll find good and bad, and people practice it better or worse. You'll find that. But generally, what you'll find as well is that people with strong families, people who take the responsibility of raising their families serious, you'll find in those cases, they kept their culture and kept their way of life. So the Islamic way of life is predominant in these places.